We stand here today, united, demanding that our voices be heard. We will not be silent.
Sir, you need to wrap this up now.
We gather here today on these sacred steps to demand that the promise of democracy be fulfilled for every citizen.
Scene for the visit that evening. As the sky burned orange, Kweku's mother and sister visited him at the workshop. Ama, now a grown woman, placed a hand on his shoulder. "You look different," she said softly. "Peaceful," he smiled. "Peace doesn't come from gold, Ama, it comes from letting go." His mother, her eyes filled with quiet pride, looked around the small shop. "You have nothing left of your riches," she said. Kweku nodded. "And yet, I have everything I ever needed." They sat together under the stars that night, sharing roasted maize and laughter. No mansion, no servants, no luxury, just family. And for the first time, the night didn't feel empty. It felt full. Scene 5, the legacy years passed. The workshop became a place of learning, where children and travelers came to hear Kweku's stories and learn his craft. He taught them to carve from the heart, to listen to the wood, to honor the spirit within it. His hands grew weaker with age, but his voice remained strong. Sometimes, when he carved, he would glance at the doorway, half expecting to see Mosey's tall shadow there, but it never came again. Instead, he saw sunlight streaming in, catching the dust in the air like tiny golden sparks, and he would smile. Scene 6, the final lesson 1, quiet morning. Years later, an old Kweku sat beneath the great baobab tree near his workshop. A group of children surrounded him. As always, one asked, "Master Kweku, will you ever carve again?" He chuckled, eyes warm. "My hands are too tired now, but maybe the world has enough of my carvings. What it needs are yours." He reached into his satchel and pulled out the same chisel he had used since his youth, worn, but still sharp. He handed it to a small boy. "Take this, carve something from your heart. Don't carve for gold, carve for truth." The boy took it reverently. Kweku leaned back, closing his eyes as the wind rustled through the trees. The sound was soft, like whispers, familiar whispers. He smiled faintly. "You see, my children," he murmured, "dreams are not meant to be sold. They're meant to be shared." And with that, the old sculptor's breathing slowed. His head rested gently against the trunk of the baobab, the wind wrapping around him like an embrace. The baton came down hard. A crack split the air, swallowed by the chant of protesters and the sirens closing in. Malik Harper stumbled backward, hand raised in defense, his voice half lost in the roar. The officer's face hovered inches away, jaw tight, eyes alight with something feral. "You people never learn," the officer hissed, breath hot, uniform gleaming under red-blue light. Another strike, sharp across Malik's shoulder. Cameras flashed from the crowd's edge. Someone screamed, "Get on the ground." Malik's chest heaved. His suit jacket was torn, his wrist bloodied where the cuffs bit in. Around him, flags trembled in the night air, slogans for unity now soaked in fear. He tasted copper. Asphalt pressed cold against his cheek as the crowd's voices blurred into one collective gasp. A young woman shouted, "He's not resisting," but the officer's boot pressed harder, silencing everything through the chaos. Malik's phone buzzed inside his pocket, the call he'd been expecting all week. Capitol Hill, his name lighting up on their screens. The officer leaned down, smirking. "What's your name, boy?" Malik turned his head slowly, meeting the man's eyes with quiet defiance. His voice came steady, cutting through the noise. "Congressman Malik Harper, 11th District." The officer froze. Cameras kept rolling. The crowd surged forward. A reporter's mic rose from the line of flashing lights. And for one suspended, electric second, the only sound was the rain starting to fall. ENE7. The echo of his words. Years later, travelers who passed through the village would stop at the workshop. There, they would find young carvers working, laughing, teaching their art alive with heart and spirit. On the wall hung a small carving, an old man smiling, holding a bird with open wings. Below it, etched into the wood, were the words, "Kweku once spoke, in chasing gold, I lost my soul. In carving truth, I found it again." The camera lingers on the carving as the sunlight filters through the window. Dust motes dance in the air, tiny, glowing flecks of gold. And somewhere, faintly, the sound of a chisel echoes, not of greed, but of creation. Drums echoed across Liberty Square, deep and steady like a heartbeat. Banners rippled above the crowd, their slogans painted in uneven strokes. "Justice now, no more silence." Malik Harper stood near the microphone stand, one hand in his pocket, the other clutching folded notes he no longer needed. He was supposed to be invisible here, not as a congressman, but as a citizen. No press entourage, no podium, just another black man walking among people demanding to breathe freely in their own country. Congressman Harper, someone whispered as he passed. He only nodded. The word congressman felt heavier today. Police lined the outer perimeter, blue uniforms glinting beneath the noon sun, their faces unreadable behind mirrored lenses. Among them stood Sergeant Cole, thick-shouldered, jaw locked, eyes scanning the crowd with suspicion. Malik lifted his hand, trying to calm the chants. "Let's keep it peaceful," he called out. His voice carried, measured and calm. A plastic bottle flew not from the protesters, but from somewhere unseen. It clattered near the officers. Cole's face twisted. "That's enough," Cole shouted, charging forward. Malik stepped between the officers and the crowd. "Hold on. Step back," Cole barked. "I'm not here to." Cole's baton swung up. The crack echoed louder than the chants. Pain shot through Malik's ribs. He stumbled back, disbelief cutting through the shock. "What the hell are you doing?" a woman cried. "Hands where I can see them," Cole yelled, pinning Malik against a barricade. Cameras rose instantly. Dozens of phones recorded as the uniformed man forced him down. Malik gasped. Don't move." Cole pressed his knee into Malik's shoulder. Malik's head turned just enough for the crowd to see his face. His glasses shattered against the pavement. Someone shouted his name. "That's Congressman Harper." Cole froze. The chant shifted from protest to fury. Reporters surged forward. Sirens wailed. Cole's grip loosened too late. Malik's voice trembled with restrained fire. "You just beat a sitting congressman in front of America." Cole's pupils dilated, realization slicing through his rage. But the damage was done, and the cameras were still rolling. Malik lay still as the noise swelled, his heartbeat syncing with the drums again, steady, defiant, unbroken. The video spread before dawn. By the time Malik opened his eyes, millions had already seen it. The congressman's face pressed against the concrete, the officer's voice cutting through the chaos. "You people never learn." The morning light felt too clean for what the world had witnessed. His ribs ached when he shifted in the hospital bed. The steady beep of the monitor mocked the silence that now surrounded him. His phone, confiscated by security aides overnight, returned with hundreds of missed calls. Across the muted TV, anchors debated tone. Some say he was provoking. Others argue excessive force. Let's remember, tensions were high. They said everything except racism. Malik muted the screen. His chief of staff, Dana, entered quietly. "Sir, it's everywhere. CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera. They're calling it the rally assault." He stared at his bandaged wrist. "And the department, internal review," she said. "Paid leave." Malik exhaled. Of course, outside the room, camera shutters clicked like insects. A nurse paused by the door, hesitant, recognition flickering across her face. "I just wanted to say," she whispered, "we saw what they did. We're all praying for you." Malik nodded. "Thank you." When she left, he stared out the window, the city skyline, too calm, too detached. He remembered the officer's voice, the weight of the boot, the sting of humiliation. It wasn't pain that lingered, it was exposure. His aide's phone buzzed again. "Who is it?" he asked. "Party leadership," Dana replied. "They're urging caution. No lawsuits yet. They want you to heal before making a statement." "Caution." Malik's tone flattened. "A man in uniform beat a sitting congressman, and they want caution. They're afraid of escalation." "Escalation already happened," he said. She hesitated, then offered her tablet. The clip replayed 30 seconds of horror. The crowd screaming, his voice drowned under authority. Underneath flooded the feed. #Justice for Malik. #hands off our leaders. #same system new target. His pulse quickened. "Pause that." Dana stopped the video. "There," he said, pointing. "Behind me. That's the girl who shouted I wasn't resisting. Eyewitness. Yes, find her. I want her protected. She'll be targeted next." Dana nodded, already typing. Malik leaned back, his eyes half closed. The sterile smell of disinfectant mixed with adrenaline and fear. Hours later, the hospital corridor filled with voices. Reporters, flashlights. Security tried to push them back, but words leaked through. Racial tension, power abuse, symbolic moment. When his wife, Elise, entered, her eyes were rimmed with exhaustion. "They won't leave us alone," she said softly. "Our daughter saw it on TikTok before I could tell her." Malik reached for her hand. "How's she handling it?" she cried. Then she asked if they'd do it again, if they didn't know who you were. He swallowed hard. Tell her, yes, because that's the truth. Elise's lip trembled. You can't say that on camera. I don't need to. Everyone already knows. Later that night, his phone buzzed again. The caller ID read, Cole S. He stared at it. Let it ring. The next morning, a press release hit every outlet. The police chief's carefully scripted statement. We take this incident seriously. Sergeant Cole is a decorated officer with 15 years of service. We ask the public not to rush to judgment until all facts are known. Malik read it twice. Decorated, he muttered. They're decorating the lie. Dana looked up from her laptop. They're building his defense early. Sympathy narrative. He nodded slowly. Good. Then they've already picked their side. That night, Malik drafted a single line in his notebook. Not for a statement. Not for the cameras, but for himself. They want silence to look like peace. He underlined it once, hard enough to tear the page. When the sun rose over Washington, the footage hit 40 million views. Commentators called it the moment the mask slipped off America. Malik's phone rang again. This time, from Capitol Hill. He didn't answer. He just stared at the ceiling, the words repeating in his mind like a slow drum. You people never learn. He was going to teach them otherwise. The air inside the Capitol Conference Suite felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. A circle of power brokers sat around the polished oak table, aides, donors, legal advisors, and the party's communications chief, all speaking in careful halftones. Malik sat at the head, bruises faintly visible beneath the crisp collar of his navy suit. His expression gave nothing away. We're advising a cooling period, said Senator Langford, voice measured. No formal complaint yet. Let the department finish its investigation. Malik's jaw flexed. You want me to wait while they bury evidence? Langford spread his hands. We don't want to inflame divisions. The country's already volatile divisions. Malik leaned forward. A uniformed officer beat a congressman on camera. And you call that a division issue? Across the table, Communications Director Naomi raised her tablet. Sir, public sympathy is high, but this can turn fast. They're already pushing narratives about rioters infiltrating the rally. Conservative outlets are calling it staged. Malik's eyes narrowed. Staged by who? The people bleeding or the ones holding batons? Silence. A young strategist cleared his throat. If we frame this as a misunderstanding, Malik's hand slammed the table. Don't you dare. The sound echoed like a gavel. Heads lowered. Dana, standing behind him, spoke quietly. He's right. If they downplay it now, they'll erase it later. This isn't a misunderstanding. It's a mirror. Langford sighed, heavy and paternal. Congressman, I understand your frustration, but politics is optics. You press charges. You alienate half the Senate Judiciary Committee overnight. Malik looked around the table at every careful face, every career built on neutrality. You think my body on the pavement was good optics? Langford didn't answer. Naomi exhaled. We can manage messaging, emphasize healing, unity, not vengeance, but you need to appear above it. Above it, Malik repeated softly. You mean, silent? Her eyes flicked downward. Do you know what silence costs a man who's been dehumanized in public? Malik said. It costs him the right to be human at all. The door opened. A new voice entered, firm, rehearsed. Sergeant Cole's attorney is on every morning show claiming the footage was edited. The room tensed. Malik turned. Edited. They're saying protesters provoked him, that you refused commands. Malik laughed. Short, sharp, hollow. Of course, the oldest lie in the book. The suspect reached for something invisible. Langford rubbed his temples. We'll issue a statement. No. Malik's tone sliced through. You'll issue nothing. I'll speak for myself. Dana frowned. Sir, we should. I said. I'll handle it. He stood, his chair scraping the marble floor. I've sat in too many rooms where strategy mattered more than truth. That ends today. Langford called after him. Malik, think about your seat, your committee positions. You'll lose everything if you make this personal. Malik paused at the door. It was personal the moment he raised his baton. Outside, the hallway buzzed with aides and reporters, each chasing statements that could fit into headlines. Malik walked through them without a word, his reflection flickering across the polished floors. Half statesman, half target. Dana caught up, breath uneven. What's your plan? He adjusted his cufflink, bruised knuckles visible beneath the sleeve. I'm going to remind them what happens when truth stops waiting for permission. Somewhere down the corridor, a TV blared. Sergeant Cole, family man, veteran, decorated officer speaks exclusively tonight. Malik Tinslow. Let him talk, he murmured. The truth won't need a PR team. He entered the elevator, the doors closing on the echo of his words. Steel ceiling resolved from the spin. By noon, the press had gathered outside the federal building, microphones clustered like weeds, camera flashes cutting through the glare of sunlight. The podium stood alone, flanked by two flags, one national, one state, fluttering against a restless wind. Malik arrived without fanfare, no entourage, no teleprompter, just a sling around his arm and a thin folder of notes he didn't intend to read. The crowd murmured as he stepped forward. His face was composed, but the bruise beneath his left eye darkened under the light. Dana adjusted the mic. Whenever you're ready, sir. He nodded once, then silence, the kind that feels alive, waiting to decide what history will remember. I didn't plan to speak today, Malik began, his voice steady but low. I planned to heal, but silence has a way of becoming permission, and I won't grant permission for brutality. The press leaned in. What happened at Liberty Square wasn't an accident. It wasn't confusion. It was clarity, the kind that strips the mask off a system and shows you what's underneath. He paused. Cameras clicked in waves. I was not at that rally as a congressman. I was there as a black man, asking that law protect everyone equally. For that, I was thrown to the ground by someone sworn to uphold the law. He didn't see a public servant. He saw a threat, and that tells you everything. A reporter shouted, "Congressman, are you pressing charges?" Malik looked toward her. Justice isn't a choice you make when it's convenient. It's the only thing that separates a nation from chaos. So yes, I will. Gasps rippled. The air tightened. Another voice called, "Are you accusing the entire department?" Malik's tone sharpened. "If the department stands between truth and accountability, then yes, I am." He straightened slightly, his sling shifting against his side. "I don't need revenge. I need reform. I don't want their punishment. I want prevention. I don't need them afraid of cameras. I need them afraid of betraying their oath." Every syllable hit like a pulse. Behind the press, small groups of onlookers began to clap, then more. The rhythm swelled until applause overtook the square. Malik didn't move, he just let the sound wash over, knowing it wasn't for him but for the shared wound he'd named aloud. Dana whispered, "You've set the fire now." "I didn't light it," Malik murmured. "I just pointed at the smoke." Hours later, the clip dominated every broadcast. Networks looped his words beside the rally footage, two halves of a single indictment. Commentators split along familiar lines, courageous stand versus reckless provocation. That evening, Malik returned home to a darker reality. Anonymous emails filled his inbox, threats disguised as patriotism, warnings wrapped in scripture. The phone rang nonstop, some calls from allies offering sympathy, others from officials asking him to retract his statement for optics. Elise met him at the door, eyes tired. "They posted our address." He froze. "Who?" "Supporters of the officer. They say they just want to talk." Malik's breath caught. He glanced toward the living room, his daughter's backpack by the couch, the television glowing with his own image. "Turn that off," he said quietly. Elise did. "You should have waited. Let the system handle it." "The system was holding the baton," he replied. She looked at him for a long moment, tears restrained by exhaustion. "Just promise me you won't let them turn you into their symbol." He stepped closer, taking her hand. "I didn't ask for the symbol. They built it when they put me on the ground." Later, as night fell, he stood by the window, the city lights blinking like distant cameras. Somewhere across town, Cole was on television again, his lawyer painting him as a misunderstood patriot. Malik watched without sound. The man on screen smiled, practiced.com. Then, quietly to himself, Malik said, "Every empire starts denying its own reflection right before it falls." The reflection in the glass stared back, not a victim, not yet a victor, but a man caught between truth and consequence. Tomorrow, the war would move indoors, to hearings, to evidence, to the quiet brutality of bureaucracy. For now, he let the silence settle again, this time on his own terms. The department hearing room was beige, windowless, and cold, the kind of room built to strip emotion from truth. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Malik took his seat across from the table where Sergeant Cole sat flanked by union lawyers. The air between them felt thick with invisible history. Cole avoided his gaze. His uniform was pressed, medals gleaming, the performance of discipline. Malik noted the tremor in the man's fingers as he shuffled papers. Nerves or guilt, maybe both. The Internal Affairs panel filed in, 3 men, 1 woman, all stone-faced. A recorder clicked on. Proceed, said the chair. Cole's lawyer began smoothly. Sergeant Cole has served honorably for 15 years. The incident in question occurred during a highly volatile demonstration. He feared for his safety and acted in accordance with training. Malek's hands tightened beneath the table. The lawyer continued. The individual he restrained, Congressman Harper, approached the police line in an aggressive manner. Malek's voice broke through, calm but sharp. Define aggressive. The lawyer hesitated, raising his hand, stepping forward despite command to stop. Malik leaned back. So, an open hand now qualifies as aggression. The panel chair shot him a warning look. Congressman, please let the process continue. He nodded. Of course, just clarifying the vocabulary of fear. Cole's lawyer pressed on. Body cam footage supports the officer's account. Dana, seated beside Malik, opened a folder. You mean the edited footage? A ripple of tension crossed the room. The chair frowned. Explain. Dana slid a USB drive forward. This is the department's official submission. Timestamp cuts jump from 19 hours 46 minutes and 10 seconds to 19 hours 48 minutes and 55 seconds, almost 3 minutes missing. Cole shifted in his seat. Malik's voice stayed low. That's the 3 minutes between the bottle landing and the first strike. The chair turned to Cole. Sergeant, can you explain that discrepancy? Cole's throat bobbed. Technical malfunction. Malik almost laughed. Convenient. The lawyer interjected quickly. There's no evidence of deliberate tampering, Dana said, except the metadata alteration, which suggests manual deletion. Now the silence was heavy enough to hear the hum of the lights. The chair adjusted his glasses. We'll need to verify this claim. Malik stared at Cole, unblinking. You can verify it all you want, but truth doesn't pause for permission. The chair ended the session abruptly. Recess for 30 minutes. When they stepped into the corridor, Dana exhaled. We got their attention. Malik's tone was cold. Attention isn't accountability. Reporters waited outside, shouting questions, but he walked past them. His stride was deliberate, the walk of someone who'd learned patience through pain. Behind them, Cole emerged. Their eyes met across the marble hallway. For a moment, neither man spoke. Then Cole muttered, barely audible, "You don't know what it's like out there." Malik stopped. I know exactly what it's like. The difference is, I'm trying to change it. You're trying to survive it by repeating it. Cole's jaw tightened. You turned this into politics. Malik stepped closer, his voice like iron. You turned it into violence. Security moved between them. Malik didn't look back as he walked away. That evening, the department released a public statement. Minor inconsistencies found in footage. Under review, Sergeant Cole remains on paid leave pending further clarification. Paid leave, the oldest shield in the book. Malik watched the news at home, expression unreadable. Elise sat beside him, her hand resting on his. They're circling the wagons, she said quietly. They always do, he replied. The walls built from silence, not bricks. Dana called. We have something. A junior tech analyst from Internal Affairs wants to talk, says he's seen the raw footage. Whistleblower, Malik asked. Anonymous. For now, says the missing 3 minutes are worse than anyone knows. Malik's grip tightened around the phone. Set the meeting. Somewhere quiet. When the call ended, Elise looked at him. You're walking into dangerous ground. I've been on it since the moment he swung that baton, Malik said. She nodded, tears threatening but Then, at least, walk carefully. He smiled faintly. Careful doesn't get walls to fall. Outside, thunder rolled over the city. Rain began again, soft, relentless, familiar. Malik watched it trace down the glass. The same rhythm as Liberty Square that night inside the precinct. Cole sat alone in his locker room, staring at his reflection in the metal door. He could still hear the congressman's voice, calm, steady, dangerous in its truth. For the first time, doubt crept in, not guilt, something colder, fear of exposure. The blue wall around him was beginning to crack, and he could hear it faint, but spreading. The house no longer felt safe. The curtains stayed drawn. The doorbell went unanswered. Malik sat at the kitchen table, the glow from his laptop casting hard shadows across his face. On the screen, a new batch of hate mail, threats written in patriotic fonts, signed with fake names and flags. One message read, "If you hate the badge so much, don't call 911 when you need help." Another, "Your daughter's school looks nice. Be careful walking her home." Elise found him staring at them, expression blank. "You have to stop reading those," I have to know what fear looks like when it writes, he said quietly. She closed the laptop. No, you have to sleep. Malik rubbed his temples. His body still ached from the hearing, his spirit heavier than the bruises. Cole's people want to push me off balance. It's working. Elise leaned on the counter, voice trembling. You think this is just about you? They called my office. They left messages saying I married a traitor. He stood slowly. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't protect our family. The silence between them stretched, brittle as glass. Upstairs, the faint hum of his daughter's music leaked through the ceiling, a small mercy, a reminder of innocence still breathing somewhere in the house. Malik walked to the window. Outside, 2 unmarked cars idled near the curb, black windows, headlights off. Watching, he said softly. They want me afraid enough to stop, but not afraid enough to hide. Elise turned toward him. Then what are you going to do? Finish it. Her voice broke. Finish it, or let it finish you. He didn't answer. A knock interrupted. Urgent, familiar. Dana stepped in, soaked from the rain. We got the footage. Malik's eyes sharpened. From the whistleblower. She nodded, handing him a flash drive. Full recording. The missing minutes are there. He slid it into his laptop. The video loaded, grainy, unedited. Cole advancing through the crowd, baton already raised. Malik's voice, calm, visible hands. No aggression. No threat. Just order descending into rage. Then the part unseen by the public, another officer whispering, that's the congressman, before the blow lands anyway. Elise covered her mouth. He knew. Malik stared, motionless. He knew. The sound of that baton striking the microphone stand filled the room. Dana whispered, we can leak it anonymously. Safer that way. Malik shook his head. No, not anonymous. Truth doesn't hide. She hesitated. They'll come after you harder. They already are. He closed the laptop gently. The image of Cole's face still burned behind his eyelids. Later that night, he sat alone in his study. A photo of his father, taken at a 1968 march, hung above the desk. The old man's eyes carried the same exhaustion Malik felt now. He whispered into the quiet, you fought them with signs, I fight them with screens. The house no longer felt safe. The curtains stayed drawn. The doorbell went unanswered. Malik sat at the kitchen table, the glow from his laptop casting hard shadows across his face. On the screen, a new batch of hate mail, threats written in patriotic fonts, signed with fake names and flags. One message read, if you hate the badge so much, don't call 911 when you need help. Another, your daughter's school looks nice. Be careful walking her home. Elise found him staring at them, expression blank. You have to stop reading those. I have to know what fear looks like when it writes, he said quietly. She closed the laptop. No, you have to sleep. Malik rubbed his temples. His body still ached from the hearing, his spirit heavier than the bruises. Cole's people want to push me off balance. It's working. Elise leaned on the counter, voice trembling. You think this is just about you? They called my office. They left messages saying, I married a traitor. He stood slowly. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't protect our family. The silence between them stretched, brittle as glass. Upstairs, the faint hum of his daughter's music leaked through the ceiling, a small mercy, a reminder of innocence still breathing somewhere in the house. Malik walked to the window. Outside, 2 unmarked cars idled near the curb, black windows, headlights off. Watching, he said softly. They want me afraid enough to stop, but not afraid enough to hide. Elise turned toward him. Then, what are you going to do? Finish it. Her voice broke. Finish it, or let it finish you. He didn't answer. A knock interrupted, urgent, familiar. Dana stepped in, soaked from the rain. We got the footage. Malik's eyes sharpened. From the whistleblower. She nodded, handing him a flash drive. Full recording. The missing minutes are there. He slid it into his laptop. The video loaded, grainy, unedited. Cole advancing through the crowd, baton already raised. Malik's voice, calm, visible hands. No aggression. No threat. Just order descending into rage. Then the part unseen by the public. Another officer whispering, that's the congressman, before the blow lands anyway. Elise covered her mouth. He knew. Malik stared, motionless. He knew. The sound of that baton striking the microphone stand filled the room. Dana whispered, we can leak it anonymously. Safer that way. Malik shook his head. No, not anonymous. Truth doesn't hide. She hesitated. They'll come after you harder. They already are. He closed the laptop gently. The image of Cole's face still burned behind his eyelids. Later that night, He sat alone in his study. A photo of his father taken at a 1968 march hung above the desk. The old man's eyes carried the same exhaustion Malik felt now. He whispered into the quiet, "You fought them with signs. I fight them with screens." The next morning, Washington woke to a storm that wasn't weathered. At 6 a.m., Malik uploaded the footage to every platform with one caption: unedited, unfiltered, decide for yourself. Within hours, it hit 1 million views. By noon, 10 million. News anchors stumbled to rewrite scripts mid-broadcast. Commentators who'd once defended Officer Cole now pivoted into damage control. Hashtags multiplied. Protesters flooded city halls in dozens of states. The words he knew appeared on posters, shirts, graffiti, walls, but Malik wasn't celebrating. He stood by his window again, watching the unmarked cars vanish one by one. Their absence felt worse than their presence. Dana called, "You're trending everywhere." Even international outlets picked it up. He asked, "Any official statement from the department?" "Nothing. They've gone silent." "That's not good." Malik turned to his desk, where his phone buzzed nonstop with messages. Journalists, senators, civil rights groups, even his party's leadership. Everyone wanted a quote, a reaction, a headline. He typed 2 words and sent them to all. Just truth. Elise entered, holding coffee, her eyes red from sleeplessness. "You did it." He didn't answer. "You exposed him," she said. "You showed them everything." "I showed them one thing," he corrected. "Now they'll look for a new lie." She set the cup down. "You can't keep thinking like that. You have to let people decide." He looked at her, tired, haunted, resolute. "I've seen what people decide when the truth is inconvenient." At that moment, his phone rang again. "Unknown number." He answered. A male voice, rough, restrained. "You think this changes anything, Congressman? Who is this?" "You know who." Malik's hand tightened around the phone. "Cole. You think you can bury me with some video?" Cole's voice was steady, almost amused. "You don't know the system you're playing with," Malik replied. "I helped write half of it." Cole chuckled. "Then you should know, it was never written for you." The line cut. Malik stared at the dead screen. Elise whispered, "He called you." He nodded. "He's scared. That's why he sounds brave." A few hours later, the first official statement arrived, not from the police, but from the union. It accused Malik of weaponizing political influence to endanger law enforcement. The networks ran it side by side with the footage. Commentators argued, panels formed, the noise rose again, opinion drowning out evidence. By evening, Malik's team gathered at his house. Dana, 2 aides, a security consultant, and his press advisor filled the living room. Dana spoke first. "They're mobilizing disinformation, fake accounts, bot swarms, edited versions of your video. They're pushing counter-narratives fast." The consultant added, "You're a target now, not metaphorically. You need security," Malik said. "If I hide behind guards, they win twice, once by fear, once by optics." Dana slammed the table. "You think dying makes you righteous?" He shot her a look sharp enough to silence the room. "No," he said, "it makes me proof." The words hung there heavy. Final. Outside, the crowd began forming. Reporters, supporters, camera crews. They filled the street, chanting his name, demanding accountability. Malik stepped outside briefly. Rain slicked the pavement. Flashbulbs burst like lightning. He raised his hand, not in victory, but in steadiness, a signal of control amid chaos. A reporter shouted, "Congressman, what do you want to happen now?" He answered without hesitation. "Accountability. Not revenge, not reform. Accountability." The chant caught. Accountability, accountability, spreading through the crowd like a tide. He went back inside, soaked, shaking slightly from adrenaline. Elise met him at the door, towel in hand. "You're bleeding." He looked down, a small cut across his palm from where the flash drive had cracked earlier. He hadn't even noticed. Dana whispered, "They can't stop it now. It's too big." Malik nodded, but his eyes were distant. "That's what scares me. When a story gets too big, it stops being human." The TV in the corner blared, the police chief giving a live address. "Officer Cole has been placed on administrative leave pending investigation." The crowd outside roared. Elise gasped. Dana smiled in disbelief. But Malik didn't move. He knew what administrative leave meant. A pause, not justice. A gesture, not accountability. He said quietly, "They're buying time." Dana asked. "Then what do we do?" Malik replied, "We don't stop." He turned back to his laptop. opening a new document titled Testimony for Federal Oversight Hearing. Every keystroke was deliberate. Surgical, systemic prejudice is not an event, it's a pattern. One man swung a baton, but an institution held it steady. Elise watched him write, her expression shifting from fear to reluctant admiration. You're still fighting. He didn't look up, because they still are. Outside, thunder rolled again, the echo of a nation cracking under its own weight. Inside, Malik kept typing, the sound of one man refusing to let silence reclaim the room. The hearing chamber buzzed like a live wire. Cameras lined every corner. Journalists filled the back rows. Protesters gathered outside the Capitol steps, chanting under gray skies. Malik stood at the witness table, hands clasped. His nameplate read Congressman Malik Owens, 3rd District of Maryland, but the title meant little now. He wasn't here as a lawmaker. He was here as evidence. The chairwoman cleared her throat. Congressman Owens, you may begin your statement. Malik glanced once toward the spectators. Elise, Dana, the young volunteer who had filmed everything. Then he opened the folder and began reading, voice calm, deliberate. I stand here not as a victim, but as a witness to a truth we've buried under bureaucracy. The badge that struck me wasn't a single man's weapon, it was a nation's permission. The room went still. He continued. We cannot keep pretending. Accountability is a threat to justice. Accountability is justice. Across the aisle, Officer Cole sat with his lawyer. His jaw was tight, his uniform pressed, his posture rigid. The department had forced him to appear. The cameras loved him. The fallen hero narrative, already blooming on sympathetic networks. Malik's eyes met his. The silence between them was heavier than any speech. Cole broke it with a whisper that carried across the microphones. You think you won. Malik's reply was soft. I think the truth did. Gasps rippled through the chamber. The chairwoman interjected. Order, Mr. Cole. You'll have your turn. Cole's attorney leaned in, whispering furiously, but the damage was done. His arrogance now public record. Malik resumed. When I was beaten, cameras didn't protect me. The law didn't protect me. But the people, the ones watching, recording, speaking, they did. That's the America I still believe in. Applause broke out despite the gavels pounding. Cole's lawyer called it a political spectacle. Cole claimed he feared for his safety during the rally. The footage refuted every word. Then came the moment no one expected. A new video leaked that morning, played on the chamber screens. It showed Cole laughing with other officers after the rally, bragging, he's just another loud one, won't last a week once the cameras move on. The room erupted. Cole's attorney paled. Cole froze, realizing someone from inside had turned on him. Malik didn't smile. He simply watched the truth finish its work. By afternoon, the headlines read, Officer suspended, federal investigation launched. Congress demands justice for beaten lawmaker. Cole was escorted out of the chamber, not in cuffs yet, but with the air of a man whose world had begun to collapse. Outside, Malik faced the press. A reporter asked, Congressman Owens, do you forgive him? Malik paused. Rain began again, soft and steady. Cameras leaned closer. He said, forgiveness isn't freedom from consequence. He'll answer to the same system he served, and maybe that's the first mercy he's ever known. The clip went viral. That night, the rally site became a memorial, not for Malik but for what the confrontation had exposed. Thousands gathered. Some held signs of support. Others carried candles. Malik walked among them quietly, Elise by his side. A teenage boy approached him. My brother's in jail right now. They said he resisted, but he didn't. You made people listen. Malik placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. Then don't let them stop listening. The boy nodded, eyes wet. Elise whispered, you gave them hope. Malik's gaze was distant. Hope's fragile. It dies easy. But maybe now it gets a fighting chance. He looked up at the courthouse dome glowing in the distance. The symbol of justice, flawed, towering, still standing. Later, back home, Malik sat at his desk once more. The flash drive lay beside him, cracked, its purpose fulfilled. He opened his laptop and began typing his next bill. The Civil Oversight and Accountability Act. It wouldn't erase the pain. It wouldn't undo the beating. But it would matter. Hours passed. Elise came in, draped a blanket over his shoulders. He murmured, half to himself. He thought the system would protect him. But the system only protects itself until someone forces it to look in the mirror. Elise replied softly, and you made it look. He didn't respond. The typing continued, steady, rhythmic, relentless. Outside, The city was alive with chants, sirens, rain, and light. Inside, one man, bruised, unbroken, kept writing the truth that nearly killed him. The storm hadn't ended, but now, it had a name. Months passed, the noise faded, headlines shifted. The world, as always, moved on. But Malik didn't. He still rose early, still reached for the scar beneath his collarbone every morning, like checking a clock. The pain wasn't sharp anymore. It was memory-shaped, constant, settled deep enough to live with. His bill had passed the House. The Civil Oversight and Accountability Act now carried his name. Cities were required to release misconduct footage within 72 hours. Independent review boards gained authority. Some called it historic, others performative. Malik knew better. Laws changed paper. Culture took longer. Elise had started painting again, canvases of storm-gray skies over broken podiums and cracked flags. She said they helped her breathe. He envied her for that. That one night, after another late session on the Hill, Malik walked home through D.C. streets slick with rain. The Capitol dome glowed faintly in the distance, the same light that had watched him bleed, watched him rise. At a red light, a patrol car slowed beside him. The officer inside rolled down the window. Young, nervous, Congressman Owens, he said, I just wanted to say, what you did, it made a difference in my department. We see things differently now. Malik studied his face, saw sincerity fighting fear. He nodded once. Then make sure you keep seeing. The light turned green. The cruiser rolled away. Malik kept walking. His reflection stretched thin in puddles. When he reached home, Elise was asleep on the couch. The TV flickered with muted news, Cole's sentencing hearing. He sat, watching silently as the verdict appeared, guilty of assault under color of law. 5 years, no cheers, no satisfaction, just quiet inevitability. He whispered, 5 years for the blow, a lifetime for the system that taught him to swing it. Elise stirred. You're watching again. He nodded. She said softly, you don't have to carry it every night. He replied, if I don't, someone else will. She reached over, turned off the screen, and took his hand. Then carry it lighter. He didn't answer, but his hand didn't pull away. In the months that followed, Malik spoke less and listened more. To victims, to officers, to families, all of them fractured by a country still trying to decide what justice meant. He stopped attending rallies. The people didn't need speeches anymore. They needed endurance. One morning, while walking through the Capitol courtyard, a janitor, older, weary, with kind eyes, stopped him. Sir, he said, I saw you on TV when it happened. I prayed for you. Malik smiled faintly. Guess it worked. The man shook his head. No, son, you worked. God just watched. Malik walked away slowly, those words echoing louder than any applause. That evening, standing at his window once more, he saw the same streetlights that had witnessed his beginning, the rally, the beating, the silence that followed. Now, the same city hummed differently, not healed but aware. He whispered to the night, it's not over. It never is. Behind him, Elise's voice, warm, steady. No, but it's yours now, not theirs. He turned, saw her holding 2 mugs of tea. She handed him one. They stood together in the dim light. The world outside still loud with unfinished business. Malik looked out the window one last time and exhaled. The sound was small, almost nothing, but for the first time in months, it wasn't heavy. Outside, thunder rolled again, distant, fading. This time, it didn't sound like warning. It sounded like closure.